The autumn breeze rustled through Central Park, carrying the sweet scent of fallen leaves and hot dog vendors. Marcus Thompson sat on his favorite bench, his legs swinging back and forth as they didn't quite reach the ground yet. At 12 years old, he wasn't the tallest kid in his class, but what he lacked in height, he made up for in heart. His mother had packed him an extra-large lunch today, 2 sandwiches instead of 1, a bag of chips, an apple, and his favorite chocolate chip cookies. She always made sure he had enough to eat, working 2 jobs to keep their small family afloat. Share when you can, she'd always say, because kindness makes the world go round. As Marcus unwrapped his first sandwich, movement caught his eye. An elderly man with a wooden cane limped slowly along the path, his clothes clean but worn, his white hair neatly combed despite its thinness. The man's eyes were fixed on the ground, watching each step carefully as if the earth might suddenly vanish beneath his feet. The old man, who looked to be in his 70s, stopped near Marcus's bench, breathing heavily. His hand trembled slightly on his cane, and Marcus noticed how the man's other hand kept touching his stomach. "Would you like to sit down, sir?" Marcus asked, sliding over to make room. His mother had taught him to be polite to everyone, especially older folks who might need help. The man looked up, surprised. A gentle smile crossed his weathered face. "Thank you, young man. These old legs aren't what they used to be." He carefully lowered himself onto the bench, his movements slow and deliberate. Marcus watched as the man's eyes drifted to the hot dog cart across the path. There was a longing in that look that Marcus recognized. He'd seen it in his mother's eyes sometimes, when bills were due and dinner was smaller than usual. Without hesitation, Marcus picked up his second sandwich. "Would you like half of my sandwich, sir? My mom made extra today." The old man turned to him, startled. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly. Please." Marcus held out half of the perfectly cut turkey sandwich. "Mom says sharing food makes it taste better. And she always makes the best sandwiches." High above them, hidden by advanced technology that bent light around its form, a figure watched intently. But neither Marcus nor the old man noticed anything unusual about the warm autumn day. The elderly man's eyes grew misty. "That's very kind of you. My name is David." He accepted the sandwich half with slightly shaking hands. "I'm Marcus. Nice to meet you, Mr. David." Marcus pulled out his bag of chips and placed it between them. "We can share these too." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching squirrels chase each other around tree trunks and pigeons waddle past in search of crumbs. David ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were a gourmet meal. "You know," David said softly, "I used to have a grandson about your age." His voice carried a weight that seemed heavier than his years. "Used to?" Marcus asked, then quickly added, "Sorry, Mom says sometimes I ask too many questions." David chuckled, a warm sound that seemed to brighten the air around them. "Questions are good, Marcus. They help us learn and understand each other. My grandson. He moved far away with his parents. I don't get to see him anymore." Marcus nodded solemnly, understanding loss in the way only children who've experienced it can. "That's sad, but maybe you can make new friends. I come to this park most days after school." Above them, the hidden observer made notes in a format no human would comprehend, recording every word, every gesture, every nuance of the interaction. David finished his half of the sandwich and carefully folded the napkin it had been wrapped in. "Thank you, Marcus. Not just for the food, but for the company. Sometimes the hardest part of getting old is feeling invisible." "You're not invisible, Mr. David," Marcus said firmly, offering him a chocolate chip cookie. "You're right here. And you tell good stories. Want to hear about the science project I'm doing? It's about space." As Marcus launched into an enthusiastic explanation of his solar system model, neither he nor David noticed the slight distortion in the air above them, like a heat wave on a cool day. Neither of them knew that this simple lunch would set in motion events that would change the course of human history. For now, they were just two people sharing food and stories on a park bench, creating the kind of moment that made the universe stop and take notice. Captain James Smith stood invisible in the air above the park bench, his advanced cloaking technology making him as unseen as a thought. Through his enhanced vision, he watched the boy and the old man share cookies and stories. His recording devices captured every smile, every gesture, every moment of genuine connection between the unlikely pair. Back in his hidden ship, parked in a pocket of folded space above Central Park, Smith sat at his command console and began his daily report to the Galactic Council. His fingers moved across the holographic keyboard, transforming his observations into the formal language required for such reports. Date: Earth Calendar 2024. Subject: Continued observation of species 7249A, human. Location: New York City, North American continent. He paused, thinking about what he had just witnessed. In his 300 years of serving on the assessment division, he had never seen anything quite like humans. They were a puzzle that both frustrated and fascinated him. Today's observation provides further evidence of spontaneous altruistic behavior among humans, particularly noteworthy in their juvenile specimens. Subject A: juvenile, estimated age 12 Earth years. Shared vital nutritional resources with Subject B: elderly male, without any apparent expectation of reward or future benefit. Smith's report was interrupted by a soft chime. His ship's AI announced, "Incoming transmission from Council Member Peters." The holographic screen shimmered, and the stern face of Council Member Peters appeared. Like Smith, he appeared human, their technology allowing them to blend in perfectly with Earth's dominant species. "Captain Smith," Peters' voice was crisp and cold. "Your latest reports are causing quite a stir in the Council. Some members feel you're becoming emotionally invested in these primitives." Smith straightened in his chair. "Council member, with all due respect, I'm simply reporting what I observe. These humans, Peters cut him off, still wage war against each other. They destroy their own environment. They can barely manage spaceflight to their own moon. They are centuries away from being ready for contact. And, yet," Smith countered, pulling up the recording of Marcus sharing his lunch, "they show remarkable capacity for compassion. Look at this interaction. No benefit to the child. No reward. Simply kindness for kindness' sake." Peters watched the recording, his expression unchanged. "One incident hardly. Not one incident." Smith interrupted, something he'd never dared do before. "I have thousands of similar recordings. Humans helping humans. Humans helping animals. Humans helping even when it costs them something. No other species we've encountered shows this trait so consistently." The Council member's eyes narrowed. "Need I remind you of Protocol 7249? No interference. No contact. Observe and report only." Smith nodded, but his mind was already racing with the implications of what he'd been seeing. "Of course, Council member. However, Section 3 of Protocol 7249 also requires us to report any unique species characteristics that might benefit the greater galactic community." Peters was silent for a long moment. "You truly believe these acts of kindness are unique?" "In my 3 centuries of observation across 17 species, yes. Other species show altruism within family groups or when there's clear benefit. Humans do it spontaneously, even with strangers." "Continue your observations," Peters finally said. "But remember, Captain, we've seen promising species fall before. Don't let your hope cloud your judgment." The transmission ended, leaving Smith alone with his thoughts. He turned back to his observation window, focusing on the park bench where Marcus and David were still chatting. The boy was now showing the old man pictures on his phone, both of them laughing at something on the screen. Smith added one final note to his report. "Request permission to expand observation parameters. These humans may be more than they appear. Their weakness might be their greatest strength." He sent the report, knowing it would cause more debate in the Council. But as he watched Marcus pack up his lunch and help David stand from the bench, he knew he was right. There was something special here, something the rest of the galaxy needed. The question was, would the Council see it in time? The great chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. 50 beings from across the galaxy sat in tiered seats forming a perfect circle. Though they all wore human forms to maintain protocol, their mannerisms betrayed their alien origins. Some sat too still, others moved too smoothly, and a few seemed to forget to blink. Captain Smith stood in the center of the chamber, his recorded observations playing in the air above him. The scene of Marcus sharing his lunch with David played out in perfect holographic detail. This is what you call evidence of advancement. Council member Rex's voice boomed through the chamber. He was from a warrior race that had unified their planet through conquest. A child sharing food. This is meant to impress us. With respect, Smith replied, keeping his voice steady. It's not just about sharing food. It's about the pattern this represents. He gestured, and the hologram changed, showing hundreds of similar scenes from around Earth. A woman giving her umbrella to a stranger in the rain. A man helping an elderly person cross a busy street. A child emptying their piggy bank to help a sick pet. In the last Earth month alone, I've recorded over 10,000 spontaneous acts of kindness between strangers, Smith explained. No other species in our records shows this behavior at such frequency. Council member Lisa, from a species that had achieved spaceflight through perfect logical cooperation, leaned forward. Perhaps this indicates lack of evolutionary fitness. Sharing resources without guarantee of return is inefficient. Or perhaps, Smith countered, it indicates a type of advancement we've never considered before. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Council member Peters stood, his authority silencing the room. Captain Smith, you've served the assessment division with distinction for 3 centuries. But these humans, look at their history. The hologram shifted again, showing scenes of Earth's wars, pollution, poverty, and conflict. They fight among themselves, Peters continued. They damage their own planet. They divide themselves by arbitrary boundaries and beliefs. How can you suggest they're advanced? Smith took a deep breath. What he was about to say could end his career, but he thought of Marcus's simple act of kindness and knew he had to try. Honorable Council, he began, we've always measured advancement by technology, by unity, by conquest, or by perfect cooperation. But humans show us something different. They advance despite their divisions, perhaps even because of them. He brought back the image of Marcus and David. This boy has every reason not to trust. His species has a history of prejudice. His family struggles financially, yet he shares what little he has with a complete stranger. Not because he's programmed to, not because it's logical, but because he chooses to be kind. And this makes them advanced. Rex scoffed. Yes, Smith said firmly, because they choose it. Every other species we've encountered achieved unity through conquest, perfect logic, or collective consciousness. Humans are the only ones who maintain their individuality while still choosing to help others. They're the only ones who do good things simply because they believe they should. Lisa's perfect posture showed a slight shift of interest. You suggest this emotional decision-making is a strength rather than a weakness. I suggest it's the greatest strength we've ever encountered. Smith waved his hand, and the hologram showed Marcus explaining his space project to David. They dream of the stars not because they're programmed to explore, but because they choose to wonder. They help others not because it's logical, but because they choose to care. The chamber fell silent. Even Peters seemed lost in thought. Finally, an ancient council member named Alexander, who rarely spoke, stood up. In all our advancement, he said quietly, we've forgotten something these humans still remember. The choice to be kind when there's no reason to be. Perhaps that's the most advanced thing of all. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some council members nodded thoughtfully, others argued fiercely. But Smith noticed something important. They were all engaged, all considering the possibility that they had been measuring advancement wrong all along. As the debate continued around him, Smith smiled slightly. Marcus would never know that his simple act of sharing lunch had caused the most powerful beings in the galaxy to question everything they thought they knew about civilization. David walked slowly through a hidden doorway in what appeared to be an ordinary New York apartment building. As the door sealed silently behind him, his hunched posture straightened. The trimmer in his hands disappeared. His cane transformed into a sleek data collection device. The apartment's ordinary walls shimmered and vanished, revealing a high-tech command center. Screens covered the walls, each showing different humans going about their daily lives. But one screen was larger than the others, displaying Marcus walking home from the park, his empty lunch bag swinging at his side. "Agent White," a computerized voice announced, "your report is overdue." David, or Agent White, as he was known to his own people, stood before the main screen. "Yes, because I'm having difficulty understanding what I observed today." A figure materialized in the room. Tall, elegant, with silver eyes that betrayed their non-human origin. This was Commander Gray, leader of the opposition force, the group that believed humanity should be left in isolation forever. "Your mission was simple," Gray said, each word precise and cold. "Observe humans at their worst. Document their selfishness. Prove they deserve quarantine, not contact." "That was my mission," White agreed. "And for 6 Earth months, I've played this role. I've dropped my wallet with money showing, pretended to be lost, acted hungry and helpless. I expected to collect endless evidence of human greed and indifference." Gray's silver eyes narrowed. "And instead," White gestured at his screens, "instead, I have recordings of 47 people trying to return the wallet, 52 offering directions, and today—" He paused, touching the screen showing Marcus. "Today, a child shared his food with no expectation of reward." "One child means nothing," Gray dismissed. "But it's not just one." White's voice rose with emotion he hadn't known he could feel. "In every test, at least 60% of humans showed kindness, even when they had little to share, even when helping cost them something." Gray moved closer to the screens. "You're growing soft, White. These humans have contaminated your judgment." "No," White said firmly. "They've opened my eyes. We were wrong about them. Captain Smith is right." The name made Gray spin around. "Smith? The Council observer? You knew about him?" White smiled slightly. "Of course, just as he knew about me. We've been watching each other wash humanity, and I think we've both reached the same conclusion." Gray's form flickered with anger. "And what conclusion is that?" "That humanity's supposed weaknesses, their emotion, their individuality, their illogical kindness, might be exactly what the galaxy needs." White touched his data collection device, and new images filled the screens. A human running into a burning building to save a stranger's pet. A poor family sharing their small meal with a homeless person. A child giving their favorite toy to another child who was crying. "Look at them, Gray, really look. They help when there's no benefit. They share when they have little. They choose kindness even when logic says not to." Gray watched the screens, their silver eyes reflecting the endless acts of human compassion. "The Council will never accept this. They believe in measurable advancement, technology, unity, power." "Perhaps," White said quietly, "it's time for the Council to advance too." A soft peep interrupted them. White checked his device and smiled. Marcus is doing his space project homework. He's drawing what he thinks aliens might look like. "And what does he imagine?" Gray asked, curiosity creeping into their voice despite themselves. "He's drawing them with big friendly smiles," White said, "because, in his words, anyone who can travel through space must be smart enough to be kind." Gray was silent for a long moment. "You're going to recommend contact, aren't you?" "No," White replied. "I'm going to tell the truth. That in trying to prove humanity's unworthiness, I discovered something remarkable. They're the only species I've ever seen that consistently chooses to be better than they need to be. As if to emphasize his point, the screen showed Marcus stopping on his way home to help a younger child who had dropped their books. No one was watching. Except, of course, for the hidden observers who were beginning to wonder if they were the ones who had more to learn. Captain Smith's hidden ship suddenly blazed with red warning lights. His voice was urgent. Massive solar activity detected. Analysis indicates a catastrophic solar flare forming, far beyond Earth's defensive capabilities. He quickly pulled up the data, his face growing pale. The numbers were worse than anything he'd seen in 3 centuries of observation. This flare would do more than just disrupt electronics. It could strip away Earth's atmosphere, ending all life on the planet. The emergency council meeting chamber materialized around him as he activated the emergency protocol. Council members flickered into existence one by one, their usual formal attitudes replaced by grave concern. The data is confirmed. Council member Lisa announced, her logical mind already calculating. Earth has approximately 48 hours before impact. Without intervention, the planet will become uninhabitable. Then the decision is made for us, Council member Rex said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. We observe. We do not interfere. Those are our laws. Nature will take its course. Nature. Agent White's voice rang out as he materialized in the chamber. This is no natural event. Our sensors detect energy patterns consistent with artificial solar manipulation. The chamber erupted in chaos. Smith's eyes narrowed. Someone engineered this flare. Yes, White confirmed, standing tall despite his cover as David being blown. And I believe I know who. His gaze fixed on Commander Gray, who had just appeared in the chamber. Gray's silver eyes showed no emotion. The opposition force believes humanity must face its true test. If they survive, they prove their worth. If not, they shrugged. The galaxy continues as it always has. This is genocide. Smith's voice boomed through the chamber. Billions of lives that might threaten galactic peace. Gray countered. You've all seen their violence, their wars, and their kindness. White interrupted. Their capacity for good. Show them the boy, Smith. Show them all. Smith waved his hand, and the image of Marcus sharing his lunch filled the chamber. But this time, the recording continued, showing Marcus's day after leaving the park. The boy stopping to help pick up dropped books, using his allowance to buy water for a thirsty stray dog, sharing his umbrella with an elderly woman at the bus stop. One day, White said softly, one ordinary human child. One continuous chain of kindness. Emotional manipulation, Gray scoffed. The flare will proceed. Even if you wanted to help, our ships cannot reach Earth in time. Smith and White exchanged looks. Actually, Smith said, I've maintained a rescue ship in Earth orbit, hidden in fold space. Against protocol, yes, but a single ship cannot evacuate billions, Lisa pointed out. No, Smith agreed, but it can deploy the solar shield, the one we use to protect developing worlds. The chamber went silent. The solar shield was one of their most closely guarded technologies. Using it would mean revealing their existence to Earth. If we do this, Peters spoke for the first time. There's no going back. Humanity will know they're not alone. They already know, White said. In their hearts, in their stories, in their dreams of the stars. They look up with hope, not fear, even their children. He waved his hand, and an image appeared of Marcus's space project, a drawing showing friendly aliens helping humans explore the stars. We put it to a vote, Peters announced. The life of an entire species hangs in the balance. Will we watch them die, or will we finally reach out our hand in the same spirit of kindness they so often show each other? As the council members began to cast their votes, Smith received another alert. The flare was accelerating. They had less time than they thought. He looked at the image of Marcus, still frozen in the air. A boy sharing his lunch, not knowing that his simple act of kindness had started a chain of events that would determine humanity's fate. The fate of Earth now rested in the hands of beings who had forgotten how to be kind, watching in wonder as humanity taught them to remember. While the Council debated Earth's fate, Captain Smith and Agent White worked frantically in Smith's ship, analyzing centuries of data about human behavior. The solar flare grew larger on their monitors, a deadly countdown to Earth's possible extinction. "Look at this," White said, pointing to a pattern in their combined data. "Every advanced species we've studied reached peace through one of three paths: perfect logic, unified consciousness, or complete dominance. But humans," Smith leaned closer to the display, "they're doing something entirely different." The screen showed thousands of small interactions from around the world, a network of tiny kindnesses spanning the globe. Each dot represented an act of compassion: shared food, offered help, given comfort. The patterns looked like stars in the night sky. "It's beautiful," Lisa's voice came from behind them. She had left the council debate to see their research. "But what does it mean?" "It means we've been wrong about advancement," Smith said. "We thought species had to eliminate their differences to progress. But look at humans. They maintain their individuality while choosing to connect through kindness." White pulled up his latest recordings. Take Marcus, for instance. Nothing forced him to share his lunch. His culture encourages kindness but doesn't enforce it. His family teaches generosity but can't control his choices. He chose to be kind. "Choice," Lisa whispered. "That's what makes it powerful." Smith nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Other species achieve unity by removing choice. Logical species program themselves to cooperate. Hive minds share one consciousness. Warrior races enforce peace through power. But humans," White continued, "they stay separate, different, individual. And then they choose, over and over, to be kind anyway. That's why their kindness matters more, because they could choose differently." The ship's AI suddenly spoke. "Analysis complete. Comparing human behavior to all known species reveals a unique pattern. Humans show an 85% probability of helping others, even at personal cost, when no benefit is likely." "That's impossible," Lisa said. "No species scores above 60% in pure altruism." "No other species," Smith corrected. "Humans are the first. And look at this." He brought up new data. "Their kindness is contagious. When one human shows kindness, others nearby are 73% more likely to do the same." White's eyes widened. "It's not just individual acts. They're creating a network of compassion, teaching, and inspiring each other to be better." "But they still fight wars," Lisa argued. "They still have conflict." "Yes," Smith agreed. "And that makes it even more remarkable. They're not perfect. They struggle. They fail. But they keep choosing kindness anyway. That's not weakness. It's the greatest strength we've ever encountered." The ship's screens filled with examples. A soldier risking death to save an enemy child. A poor family sharing their last meal with strangers. A child giving away his favorite toy to someone who needed it more. "We've been looking for perfection," White said softly. "But perhaps true advancement isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing to be good even when you're not." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "The council needs to see this. All of it." As if in response, the ship's alarms blared again. The solar flare was growing faster than predicted. Earth had less than 24 hours. "There's more," the AI announced. "Analysis suggests human kindness creates measurable changes in their physical environment. Their acts of compassion generate patterns similar to quantum entanglement, connecting separate points in spacetime." Smith straightened. "Are you saying their kindness has actual physical effects?" "Affirmative. Human kindness appears to create what can only be described as ripples in the fabric of reality. No other species has demonstrated this ability." White looked at the image of Marcus still frozen on one screen. A boy shares his lunch, and it literally changes the universe, one tiny ripple at a time. Lisa turned toward the council chamber. We need to vote again. They're not just worthy of saving. They might be the most important species we've ever found. Behind them, the solar flare continued to grow, racing toward Earth, while humanity's hidden strength quietly rippled through the cosmos. Unaware of its own power, the great chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with an energy never felt before. The evidence of humanity's unique power had shifted the debate entirely. Even Commander Gray stood silent, their silver eyes fixed on the displays, showing the ripple effects of human kindness across space-time. We have 18 Earth hours until the solar flare reaches critical mass, Peters announced, his voice grave. We must decide now. Do we save humanity, or do we let them face extinction? Council member Rex stood. These readings about kindness affecting space-time, they could be errors. We can't risk exposing ourselves based on a theory. Not a theory, Lisa countered, stepping forward with fresh data. Look at these readings from the quantum level. She waved her hand, and the chamber filled with complex patterns of light. Every act of human kindness creates these ripples. They're literally reshaping reality on a quantum scale. But they're primitive, another council member argued. They haven't even reached their own moon in 50 years. Because they chose to solve problems at home instead, Smith said, entering the chamber with White. Look at this. The images changed to show Earth's recent history. When they first reached their moon, they could have kept pushing outward. Instead, they turned their technology to helping each other. Medical advances, clean energy research, food production. White stepped forward. They chose to help each other over exploring space. In our terms, that looks like regression. But in reality, it's advancement of a different kind. Peters finished quietly. Commander Gray finally spoke. Even if all this is true, using the solar shield will change everything. They'll know they're not alone. Their civilization will change forever. It's already changing, White said. He brought up new images. Marcus's neighborhood. In the day since sharing his lunch, the boy's simple act had sparked a chain reaction. The elderly woman he'd helped with the umbrella had bought coffee for a tired nurse. The nurse had helped a lost child. The child's parents had donated to a local food bank. This is happening all over their world, Smith explained. Small acts of kindness creating endless ripples. And each ripple, he gestured to Lisa's quantum readings, strengthens the fabric of space-time itself. We've always thought advancement meant perfect unity, Lisa added. But they found something possibly more powerful, chosen unity, voluntary kindness, and it's affecting reality in ways we never imagined possible. Peters looked around the chamber. We've watched humanity for centuries, thinking we were judging them. But perhaps, he paused, looking at the image of Marcus sharing his lunch. Perhaps they've been teaching us all along. Teaching us what? Rex demanded. That true strength isn't in perfect logic, or unified consciousness, or even technological advancement, Smith said. It's in choosing to be kind when you don't have to be. In staying individual but still choosing to help others. In being imperfect but trying anyway. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this idea. The monitors showed the solar flare growing larger, now visible even to Earth's primitive instruments. News reports were beginning to show concern about unusual solar activity. We need to vote, Peters announced. But first, I want everyone to look at this. He brought up one final image. Marcus at home, packing his lunch for the next day. They watched as he carefully made 2 sandwiches again, even though it meant less food for himself. He doesn't know if he'll meet anyone who needs food tomorrow, White said softly. He doesn't know we're watching. He doesn't know his actions are creating quantum ripples that strengthen the universe itself. He's just choosing to be kind, because that's what humans do. Peters looked around the chamber. The choice before us is simple but profound. Do we let them die never knowing how special they are? Or do we choose to be more like them? To reach out with kindness, even when it costs us something. The voting crystals appeared before each council member, glowing with possibility. As they prepared to vote, the monitors showed the solar flare growing ever larger, racing toward the small blue planet that had somehow learned a truth the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. As the council members cast their final votes, Earth's news channels buzzed with reports of the approaching solar flare. Scientists were baffled by its size and speed. No one on Earth knew they had less than 12 hours left. No one except Marcus, who was about to learn the truth in an unexpected way. Marcus sat on his usual park bench, 2 sandwiches packed neatly in his lunch bag. He'd been coming every day, hoping to see Mr. David again. Today was different, though. The sky had a strange color, and fewer people were in the park because of the news about solar activity. "Hello, Marcus," a familiar voice said. Marcus looked up to see Mr. David, but something was different. The old man stood straight and tall, no sign of a tremor in his hands. His cane was gone, replaced by what looked like a silver rod. "Mr. David?" Marcus asked, uncertain. "Not exactly," White said, sitting down next to him. "My real name is Agent White, and there's someone else who wants to meet you." The air beside them shimmered, and Captain Smith appeared as if stepping through an invisible door. Marcus's eyes went wide, but surprisingly, he didn't seem scared. "Are you aliens?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "Yes," Smith smiled. "We've been watching Earth for a long time. And you, Marcus, helped us understand something very important about humans." In the council chamber, the final votes were being tallied. The screen showed the solar flare had grown even larger. Peters stood to announce the results. By an overwhelming majority, he declared, "The Council has voted to save Earth and make official contact. Deploy the solar shield immediately." Commander Gray's silver eyes showed surprise. How? How did they change so many minds?" "They didn't change our minds," Lisa replied. "They changed our hearts, something we didn't even know we still had." Back in the park, Marcus listened as White and Smith explained everything. The council, the observations, the solar flare, and most importantly, the discovery about human kindness. "Your act of sharing lunch with me," White said, "created ripples in space itself, like tiny waves in a pond, spreading out and making the universe stronger." Marcus looked at his lunch bag. "Just by sharing a sandwich." "By choosing to be kind," Smith corrected. "That choice, multiplied by billions of humans making similar choices every day, is more powerful than any technology we've ever discovered." Above them, invisible to human eyes, the solar shield began to deploy. Massive arrays of energy-absorbing crystals unfolded in space, ready to protect Earth from the artificial flare. "Look up," White said softly. Marcus tilted his head back. For a moment, the advanced technology protecting Earth became visible, a shimmering curtain of light spreading across the sky like an aurora. "It's beautiful," Marcus whispered. "Yes, it is," Smith agreed. "Just like human kindness. We came to study you, thinking we were more advanced. Instead, you taught us what real advancement looks like." In the council chamber, the members watched in awe as the quantum ripples of human kindness interacted with their technology. The solar shield wasn't just blocking the flare. It was growing stronger, powered by the very force they had just discovered. "Impossible," Rex breathed. "The shield's power is increasing." "Not impossible," Peters said. "This is what happens when advanced technology meets the most powerful force in the universe, freely chosen kindness." Back in the park, Marcus opened his lunch bag. "Would you like to share my sandwich? I mean, do aliens eat sandwiches?" White and Smith laughed, a real laugh, not the artificial ones they used during their observations. "Thank you, Marcus," White said. "You're still teaching us." Above them, the solar flare met the shield and dissipated harmlessly into space. Earth was safe, and humanity had unknowingly passed their greatest test, not through technology or power, but through a simple act of kindness that had revealed their true strength to the galaxy. 1 month had passed since the day of the solar flare. The world had changed forever when thousands of alien ships appeared in the sky, their hulls gleaming like pearls in the sunlight. The day humans learned they weren't alone in the universe had started with a boy sharing his lunch. Marcus sat at his usual park bench, but today he wasn't alone. White and Smith sat with him, along with representatives from 12 different alien worlds. They no longer hid their subtle differences. Some had silver eyes, others moved too smoothly, and a few forgot to blink. But they all smiled warmly at the boy who had changed everything. "I still don't understand," Marcus said, unwrapping his sandwich. "All I did was share my lunch." Peters, who had joined them from the council, shook his head. "You did much more than that. You showed us something we have forgotten to look for, the power of choosing to be kind." Around them, the park was busier than ever. Humans and aliens walked together, sharing stories and learning from each other. Children played with holographic toys while their parents discussed new technologies that would help clean Earth's oceans and air. "Look there," White pointed to a small group nearby. A young alien child was sharing their space-made snack with human children, who in turn offered their Earth candy. "They're learning from your example." "The quantum ripples are stronger than ever," Lisa added, holding up a device that showed the waves of energy spreading from each act of kindness. "Your world is teaching the galaxy how to be better." Marcus watched the readings with interest. His mother had been surprised but proud when she learned her son's simple act of kindness had helped save Earth. Now she worked with alien scientists, helping them understand human emotions and compassion. "We thought advancement meant leaving feelings behind," Smith explained, accepting a piece of sandwich from Marcus. "We tried to progress through pure logic or perfect unity. But you humans found a better way." "By just being nice to each other?" Marcus asked. Commander Gray, who had joined them as well, nodded. "By choosing to be kind even when you don't have to be. By staying different, but helping each other anyway. By being imperfect, but trying to be better." The solar flare incident had been revealed as a test, but not in the way its creators had intended. Instead of proving humanity's weakness, it had revealed their greatest strength. Now, the opposition force worked with humans to understand how kindness could reshape reality itself. "The galaxy is changing," Peters said, watching more ships arrive in the distance. "Other worlds want to learn from Earth. They're calling it the Kindness Revolution." Marcus grinned. "Does this mean I'll get to visit other planets?" "Eventually," White laughed. "But first, we need your help here. Earth will lead the way in teaching the galaxy about compassion. Every world sending representatives wants to understand how humans learn to be kind." "That's easy," Marcus said, pulling more sandwiches from his bag. He packed extra today, knowing there would be more friends to share with. "My mom taught me, and her mom taught her. We just pass it on." As if to prove his point, he offered sandwiches to everyone around him. Each being, no matter how different they looked, accepted the simple Earth food with genuine gratitude. The quantum ripples from this moment spread out, visible even to human eyes now. Tiny waves of light that strengthened the fabric of space itself. "You know what's funny?" Marcus said, watching aliens and humans share food and stories in the park. "Mom always said kindness makes the world go round." Turns out she was right about the whole universe too. The beings around him laughed, some in perfect human voices, others in musical tones or soft hums. But the joy was the same across all species. As the sun set over the park where it had all begun, the light caught the quantum ripples just right, making the air shimmer with possibilities. Humanity's first step into the galactic community hadn't come from advanced technology or great discoveries. It had started with a sandwich, freely shared, and that had made all the difference.